Good afternoon, my friends. Happy Wednesday. The doctor's in the house. Welcome back to another episode of To Your Health with Dr. G. We are here today keeping this revolution going on. I mean, every week I'm so excited to bring you my friends, my colleagues, my experts to talk health, to talk well-being, to talk about success in your health journey. Because again, your health journey is part of your broader life experience, your life perspective. And we always talk about that on every week. In some way, shape, or form, the shows are tied back to our purpose. And I think about when I'm in my medical practice now, I've had this evolution where I'm saying, you know what? Yes, we can talk numbers, we can talk medications, but I really want to talk about you. And this show's always out there for you out there. That's why I created this show, To Your Health with Dr. G. So I'm so excited to welcome you guys back to another episode of To Your Health with Dr. G. You're joining us here live at Intellectual Radio Studios. We're checking us out as well on Facebook.com. You know me, Dr. G, www.drmarkgomez.com. I'm so excited. My panel today is fierce, and I say that all the time, and I really mean it this time too. But it's true. I cannot wait to introduce you to my experts today. We're talking today lifestyle tips for the older adults. And here's my take on it. You know, so many of us have been inspired by generations that have come before us. Those important figures in our lives. We watch them go through health and go through their lifespan, and we want them to have the best lives possible. And really the reality is that I think about this show and I think about my parents, I think about my grandparents, I think about those of my patients and their family members, people that I care for, and I want everybody to have as much success as possible. Reality is this: if you're not over 65, at some point you're probably going to be over 65. So this show is going to be perfect for you. And really what I want to do today is set the foundation for success as we get older, and really to have success and beyond, to enjoy our families, our lives, our purpose, our goals that we have, and to leave a legacy. And I think that's important for all of us today. So I'm so excited to welcome you guys back. My panel today is fierce. Again, my name is Dr. Mark Gomez. I'm a board-certified internal medicine physician practicing out of Edward Hospital. I'm also a member of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. So here we go. Let's do it. So lifestyle tips for older adults. Before we get into everything and you meet my panel, I want to hit you guys with a quick disclaimer. The content of To Your Health with Dr. G is for informational and entertainment purposes only, that the content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, and or treatment. Further details can be found at www.toyourhealthwithdrg.com/disclaimer. So here we are today talking about purpose. And really I want to set the show like this. Plato said it well, the philosopher. The part can never be well unless the whole is well. When we're looking at the longevity of our lifespans, we want to be set up with a lot of success. The most important thing, of course, that I say every week, see your doctor. Establish a relationship with somebody that you can trust, somebody that's going to be in your corner, and somebody that's going to really listen to your story. Because at the end of the day, we all have a story to tell. And so I'm so excited to welcome everybody back. My panel's great. Let's get right into it. We're going to break it down today. We're going to break it down really on kind of four essential themes. We're going to talk about nutrition. We're going to talk about exercise. We're going to talk about stress and resilience. We're going to talk about love and support, the power of connection, because this is all coming in full circle. Everything that we do in life comes full circle. And again, we're trying to pay it forward not only for those that we care about, but also for those that come after us. So I want to introduce my great panel today. I want to introduce my first guest. He and I go back a long time, many years. Great friend, colleague of mine, expert clinician. Me and him just connected, and we've been trying to get this in the works for a while, for right now, so I'm glad he's here today. But I want to welcome to my show my good friend, Dr. Jim Cunnar. Let me read you his credentials because his credentials run deep, for sure. Dr. Jim Cunnar, he's a board-certified family medicine physician. He's owner at DuPage Family Medicine. Check him out, www.DuPageFamilyMedicine.com. He's also medical director of Banyan Treatment Center. Check it out, www.BanyanTreatmentCenter.com. Dr. Cunnar, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Good to be here.
Hey, I'm so excited to have you here. This is awesome. This is the universe coming together, without a doubt.
It's fantastic. We need to do this more frequently.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You can count on that, brother, without a doubt. Tell us a little bit about your background. Again, tell me where you went to medical school, where you did your residency training, and really a few opening remarks about what this theme today means to you.
Sure. I went to Southern Illinois University, graduated in 1994, did a 3-year residency in family medicine in South Bend, Indiana, and have been in private practice now in my 23rd year.
Yes.
I'm proudly independent. I enjoy all the challenges of navigating medicine, not just for me as a physician, but also for my patients. this topic is something that is true to my heart as somebody that cares for a large adult population. As you said in the opening of the show, if you aren't a senior, we're most likely going to be that at some point. So I think these topics today are almost universal for all adults, even kids, and but how we do that as doctors has changed. And I typically try to tell people I've got 5 tenets for this, and it's some of what you hit. 1, get good sleep.
Yes, please.
2, do some green leafy vegetables. 3, drink your water, stay hydrated. 4, be up and active. And 5, try to keep your stress to a minimum. 5 simple tenets. And if you can try to do that every day, you're going to do all right.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Dr. Cunnar.
Thank you, Mark.
I can't wait to get more detail with you. My next guest, he's a return guest on Tear Up with Dr. G, longtime friend of mine. We recently did a 5K together last month. You can check out some of the photos on my website, www.drmarkgomes.com. I want to welcome back my good friend and colleague, Dr. Jason Morris. Let me read you his credentials. Dr. Jason Morris, he's a licensed clinical psychologist and certified dementia practitioner. He's with Renewed Aging Services. Check him out, www.helptheaging.com. Dr. Morris, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Mark. Glad to be back.
Hey, I'm so glad to see you. And by the way, you did really well during the 5K.
Oh,
Hey, we
you
both
so
crossed the
much.
finish line. I tell you what, that's what it is. But we're laying on the foundation for when we get there. So I like it. Please tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you do your training and in psychology? And then also, what are some opening remarks that you have about this theme? Why is this theme so important to you?
Well, I finished my training in a geriatric psychology hospital in Indiana. After I graduated from Illinois School of Professional Psychology, all my career has been with the geriatrics at some stage or another. And unfortunately, I started when they were at their worst, at the most advanced stages of dementia. I was trained by a medical doctor there to understand what was going on with the disease and to recognize some of the advanced stages. And from there, I started getting more involved with those in the living conditions, how they were managing, how their families were managing, and that's been my passion ever since then, is I just want to help a person have their highest quality of life that they can right where they're at. And that really is the reason why this topic sings to me so much. It speaks to me because that's what I want to be able to do. If I can educate you, then you can make the best decision that you can for yourself and your family. We've got so many caregivers that come alongside their loved ones, so many older people that are trying to decide what to do and where to go next and looking to their family to be knowledgeable and educated about these things, and we want to be able to provide that information. So this topic, right where we're going.
Excellent.
Right
Hey, it's great to have you back here. So how the show works, you guys just met my panelists. They are fantastic at what they do, and they're really passionate. At the end of the day, we're all about building trust and delivering truth. And so what do we do on the shows? Of course, I ask them great questions because my show, I get to pick on you guys. It's like my old days back when you're a medical student or a resident. The attending picks on you, but now I get to pick on my experts. But they've showed up here voluntarily, and I'm so excited to have them both here to really give us some pointers out there. At the end of the day, I want you guys out there to share this show. That's the best thing you could do. Talk with your physician. Talk with your loved ones. Anybody that you care about. There's a message here for everyone that's out there. As Dr. Cunnar said a few moments ago, it's out there for everybody. People of all ages can benefit from this. And as Dr. Morris just said, again, having about quality of life. We all deserve that. So here we go. The question of the hour, and we call it the chief complaint, of course, when somebody comes to our medical practice, why somebody's there. The question of the hour, chief complaint, is what should older adults be doing right now to maximize longevity, vitality, and quality of life? I'm going to ask Dr. Cunnar this question. Here we go. Just give me we got to set the record straight. We know that as statistically as we get older, there's a more of a likelihood that we're going to get something. But what should people be doing right now? You kind of said it in a little bit of your opening statement. Can you expand on that a little bit more about having a good foundation to succeed?
Sure. I feel as if there's been this fragmentation of our lives over the past 10 years specifically, and everybody is mentally pulled one way or another, and there's not enough time for anything. I think it's really important for us to have some consistent daily positivity that we can draw on, whether it's 10 minutes of meditation, whether it's a walk at lunchtime, and having others around you that also take that as it's important to them. So it's it's hard, it's difficult, but it's necessary because as physicians, it's the long play for us. We look at 10, 15, 20 years down the road, and I think patients are challenged to see that. We treat high blood pressure because we know the long-term ramification, and you can't feel it. So patients need to kind of come into our world and understand the long play is what we're going for.
Excellent. I like that, again, the long play. And I always think about, from my patient, I go, I want you to have some short-term, we may talk about short-term sacrifices to get the long-term gains. And you have to lay down that foundation. It's awesome you're saying that. And certainly as people are transitioning to an older age, again, 65 and older, a lot of times, when they were your long-term patients, they were in their 40s or their 50s, you didn't really have a lot of conversations about chronic disease. And they're getting them now. So we couldn't have even really planted the seed because they didn't have it. And so I always say the challenge is, how do you plant the seed in someone as they transition to 65 that you should have maybe planted 10, 15 years earlier?
Yeah, it's very true. That's one of the hardest things is it too late? And I think we all would agree, it's never too late. And that's something I would like the listeners and viewers to take away is you can start at any time. Come work with your physicians, and we'd be happy to do that with you. Trust us, we enjoy that. So
we certainly do. Dr. Morris, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to add that
Please.
that self-care piece is something that we don't seem to develop at an early enough age. We get to the point where we're just out of school, we get focused on our careers, then we have our families, and we're always pulled 6 ways to ever. And we don't look ahead enough to say, I've got to be able to take that time. How many times have we had our loved ones say, you know what, I need a girls' night out, I need a guys' night out. They recognize that they've got themselves overwhelmed and just have to take a moment to decompress. But really, we need to develop the habit of having that decompression time in our daily or at least our weekly activities. So that way, it helps us maintain a good mental health as we start to age.
Let me piggyback on it, because I love how you said we have to develop that habit. A lot of times we talk, but we don't do. How do you get past that barrier? Because I feel like there wants to be action, but a lot of times there's just inaction. Either you can maybe respond to that one.
I think some of it is fear and intimidation, especially when it comes to something like exercise. And I'll take it one further. If you're overweight and you want to start exercising, that can be an incredibly intimidating thing. So how do you break down the barriers to say even this small amount is beneficial? I know that in my practice I try to use evidence-based medicine like most of us do. So I'll quote studies and I'll say, this is very basic, just this little amount is something that can give you an extra 2 and 3 years of quality life at the end. And the other thing is, it takes time. One of the things that we talked about prior to the show was building care over time. I call it longitudinal care.
Yes.
And I've had patients where for 5 years, 3-4 times a year, I have prompted them and been very patient, and all of a sudden they come in 25 pounds lighter, and I look at them and I say, what did you do? And they said, I finally listened. So we have to be, so there's a certain patience I think we need to have with each other, with ourselves, but as doctors with our patients.
Now, do you think, Dr. Morris, as a clinician, we always want to do the best for our patients. There's no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. And we want to guide them through this process. And yes, sometimes we have to have our own patience when we're dealing with things, because we may not know what's going on in that person's life. Mm-hmm. Especially as people get older, they think about their care. This day and age, a lot of people over 65 are caring for their grandchildren as if they were their own children.
Yes,
they never thought that was going to be possible. They thought at 65 plus they're going to be in Tahiti on a beach and everything and seeing the world, but they may have adult children living in the household, which wasn't foreseen,
right.
30 years prior, and now raising their grandkids as if they were their own children.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you kind of navigate that? When you're talking about trying to make some lifestyle changes when somebody might have so many other angles, so many other tethers that are holding them down just to get through their day-to-day.
Well, I think that actually calls back to what's something Jim and I were talking about again before the show, and it was talking about meeting an individual where they're at. I mean, everybody's situation is unique. And we as doctors have a certain level of not only knowledge, but a way to apply that knowledge that we want to impart on our patients. And so understanding where somebody's at, understanding their situation allows us to be able to navigate with them, but not for them, in order to give them a guide road of where they could go in order to be, most beneficial to them. Along with that, it's just being able to inspire them to make that choice. Because one thing I always caution anybody that I work with is I can't work harder than you, but I definitely want to be able to provide you the best information within my scope of practice.
Excellent. Your thoughts on that one, Dr. Cunnar?
It's funny, years ago, I had a patient say once, I wish I cared as much about my health as you did.
Oh, wow.
And it's always stuck with me, because it goes to what you mentioned, Jason, where we don't understand. We get 15, 20 minutes with them 2-3 times a year, but all the rest of that, we don't know what happens. And so I think we need to keep that in context of how do we break that barrier down in a finite amount of time, and I think that comes with time. So building that relationship.
And that's one of the things that I would say, and everybody here would say, that establish that relationship with a doctor you like. We were talking a little bit earlier before we got live on air, is that, if you're not getting the answers that you need, seek another opinion. It's okay. You don't have to be stuck with the same physician that you have. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to seek other answers. It's your health. I want you to just be in charge and take charge of your health destiny. You're going to find eventually, if you don't have the right physician right now, you'll find that person down the road. I swear, you'll find that person that will hear you out and lead you to where you need to go. You just have to hear them and just keep sticking with it. So I love it. So let's get into some other kind of tips. I want to start with some nutritional stuff. We talked a little bit about I loved how you said, Dr. Cunnar, it's like, just eat some more vegetables. And there's no doubt, there's something called the blue zones. And the blue zones, for those of you out there that don't know what it is, it's 5 places on Earth where people live the longest. And not only just living the longest, but have the most vitality and even quality of life, arguably, as they get older. And, you're talking about people, in this country, it was just a little bit over 100 years ago, the average life expectancy in the U.S. was about just a little bit north of 50 years old. Now it's about 80. But one can argue that actually it should be a little bit longer. And because if we're mired in chronic disease that is really hampering our ability to have longevity, if we fix the underlying things, if we make really powerful lifestyle changes, we can actually go longer. And so what the blue zones did, these 5 places in the world where people live the longest, they have this great system. It's just almost like this great aura of longevity, and it's like transgenerational. And so you're talking about the race where they have the highest centenarians, the highest number of people that get to the 90s, the least amount of chronic disease burden. And when you look at what binds them together, a couple of things that I think about. Number one, having a life purpose. From a nutritional standpoint, though, to talk nutrition, it's really eating a predominantly plant-based, whole food, plant-based diet. They don't eat a lot of flesh, but they're not necessarily vegetarians or vegans, but they have a predominantly whole food, plant-based diet. I tell my patients this: if something grows from the ground, eat it. As long as it's not poisonous. But if something grows from the ground, it's true. If something grows from the ground, eat it. And it gets back to how we kind of were our hunter-gatherer forefathers. Mm-hmm. You weren't guaranteed to get a game kill, so you had to forage. You had to eat the things, the nuts, the seeds, the veggies, the fruits, the berries, that kind of stuff that really gave you things. You allowed your body to have these kind of alternate between times when you were stressed, when you had to maybe go on a hunt, but a lot of times we had times of rest and digest and process. And I think when they come to these blue zones communities, they're doing a lot of that stuff. They actually have that purpose. They have the ability to manage their stressors. They eat a cleaner diet. They're not having a lot of processed stuff. They're getting all their mineral requirements by doing a predominantly whole food plant-based diet. But they also have this great sense of community. Mm-hmm. But let me ask this question to Dr. Cunnar, because again, you're advising patients a lot about what they should be doing on nutrition. You're kind of like me. You just said, can you please just eat some vegetables? But it's even more than that. Yes, we don't want to do a lot of stuff because we don't want to do a lot of red meat, because we don't want to do a lot of oils because we're raising cholesterol levels. We know that red meat is linked to certain things. I'm not saying you have to cut it out entirely, but we do want to have things in moderation, and limiting it. We like doing that kind of stuff. But do you find that amongst your patients that you're saying, listen, I need you to stop the refined sugars, I need you to stop this and that and that, but how do you kind of work with somebody if there are some barriers to eating healthy?
Sure. I think one of the challenges we have societally is the fact that high fructose corn syrup is so unbelievably cheap as a calorie source, and we need to need to seriously look at if we're going to impact chronic disease on a much larger macro scale. We need to address access to healthy foods. This is something that that doesn't occur where we work, but it does occur in inner cities and in poorer parts of the world. So outside of that, I like to use this example as a can of Coca-Cola.
Okay.
150 calories.
Yes.
Okay. People look at that and go, "Oh, that's nothing." And I say, "Do you know how many calories a day you're supposed to consume?" As a male, I say 2,000 to make it even.
Okay.
Do a can of Coke for a month. And they look at me and I go, "That's 4,500 calories. That's 2.5 days of food
Yeah.
that is just in Coke." I said, "Now do that for a year." And I go, "Yeah, try 30 extra days of food just in that can of Coca-Cola." And it's funny when you put it in that context of what their small behavior does over time. So go to Portillo's 5 times a week or whatever. And if you can throttle that back and say, don't drink your calories, but instead consume your calories with green leafy vegetables and allow them that, it's funny, it works.
Yeah, it works great.
Yeah.
It's interesting, a lot of people don't recognize, and I agree, and it's never just one can of Coke, it might be 2
Correct.
or 3 in a day. I always tell people, I go, the average
They'll
diet...
admit to 1.
They'll admit to 1, I agree. Yeah, you always have to multiply by either a factor of 2 or 3 and everything. Just like with our smokers, you gotta say, they say 1 pack a day, it's actually 2. Things like that. But I always tell my patients, the reality is that the average consumer has about 1/5 of their daily calories coming in from a liquid source, but they don't realize that. So, if you're talking about like that 2,000 calorie diet, 1/5 of that is liquid calories, and a lot of that is things that we just don't think about. And then you throw other things on top of that. I showed my patients this other day, and I had an elderly couple, and I showed them a graph of some cross sections of a stomach. And I said, this is what 500 calories looks like. And so I had one graph that just looks like oil, like extra virgin olive oil, a little bit, fills up just a little bit of the stomach. And then the next slide was, I believe it was a little 500 calories of like meat, for example. So it fills up maybe about 1/3 of the stomach. Now, by the way, it takes 20 minutes on average to get that signal to say that you're full. And then, but anyways, making a long story short, you graduate that progressive to a festival, fruits and vegetables. If you had 500 calories worth of fruits and vegetables, it fills up your entire stomach.
Right.
You are full, baby.
Yeah.
And you are full. You got fiber, you got phytonutrients, and all that kind of stuff, disease-fighting things. And it's amazing when you think about it, but we have to kind of do that. What's your take on this, Jason, when you think about, because you work with a lot of a dementia-type population, how do you kind of address nutrition in that segment?
Well, I think about the blue zones that you were mentioning and how there's so much evidence on the MIND diet, which is a variation of the Mediterranean diet, which is exactly what you're talking about. And it's so helpful to make just those dietary changes. One thing that sticks with me through my training at the hospital, because I work so closely with other primary care physicians, was the fact that if your body is healthy, your mind is healthy. And there is so much truth to that. Because if your body is not healthy, your mind typically is not either. What we put into it travels all the way, including into our brain. And so when I'm working with individuals, not necessarily already set up in assisted living facilities and beyond, but particularly when they're at home, making that recommendation of having that greener leafed dietary intake.
Excellent, excellent. Let's talk about exercise. We know the body's got to move. There's no doubt so many things happen. I even think from like a brain health. When you exercise, you recruit new cells to the brain. We call it neuroplasticity. You just get oxygen. Just so many different things happen from the benefits of exercise. Dr. Cunnar, when you see your patients that are older, what kind of general exercise recommendations do you make?
Sure. I find it interesting when people talk about, I exercise, and then you ask them what they do, and they honestly say, I walked around the block and it took me 20 minutes. And as doctors, I don't think we look at that as exercise. We look at the ability to try to get your heart rate up a little bit to where you sweat, and that is moderate exercise. And so specifically for the older population, years ago I saw a study that said arguably one of the best things that seniors can do from an exercise standpoint is garden. It is an entire whole body thing. You are down, you are up, you are using arms and legs, you're using strength, you're using balance, which is something that doesn't get talked about enough, is imbalance hearing issues, visual issues of what can be barriers to exercise in the elderly. But something to say that it needs to be maintained, something that you can do for 20 minutes. And if you can do 5, great, then build to 10. So, yeah, that's kind of my approach.
What's your take on this, Dr. Morris?
I think that has to do with consistency. And when I think about, I work with the older population. And when I think about exercise, it's so important because I recognize too many times those unintended falls can have catastrophic results.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because as we age, we don't heal as fast. Sometimes we don't heal at all. And unfortunately, once you're in that wheelchair for a short amount of time, relatively short amount of time, muscles start to atrophy, and it's so difficult to get back. So I'm always recommending, try to do your best to get to that 20 minutes. Just to keep everything moving, to strengthen the muscles that are naturally atrophying because of age. Just keep moving. I haven't heard about gardening yet, but that makes complete sense.
Yeah, I love that thing. I love that gardening thing because we don't talk about it that much. Obviously, it's a dead of winter, or well, it's almost winter. Feels like it if you're in Illinois. Those of you that are in other places down south enjoy the warm weather. But here we have to be creative.
Yeah, we do.
When we talk to our patients.
The mall walkers, as the malls have become less of a thing now, but people 25 years ago, they'd go walk the mall.
Right.
I find it's interesting that people don't do that anymore because they don't really exist. The other thing I want to say is we talk about cardiovascular. The loss of lean muscle mass is used by some to define aging. And maintaining lean muscle mass, both in your upper and lower body, is maybe as important. And you can do that by actually sitting and doing exercises that don't require you to balance or be upright. And that's something that there's resources around. I know the YMCA offers that, but that's something else specifically on this topic that I wanted to make sure that we addressed.
Well, excellent. I'm going to piggyback on that one. I always like to say, I want my patients to just, those of you that are listening to us out there, whatever you're passionate about, do it. If you like to dance, country line dancing,
Right.
if you, whatever you want to do, I say do it. If you want to just something that'll get the heart moving, something that'll get the heart rate going, something that'll get you a little bit of a sweat. Yes, there are formal guidelines that will say, yes, we want you to do 150 minutes a week of moderate exercise, breaking a sweat, 3 times, ideally 3 times a week, total of that 150 minutes. But then when you kind of put it like that, people are like, 150 minutes? Like, oh, I gotta do the math. Oh, you want me to exercise that long? And I'm like, you know what? Just move your body. As you said in the beginning, Dr. Cunnar, just move. Move more, eat better, stress less, get some sleep, those kind of things. Dr. Morris.
One thing that, talking about the balance, I'm seeing more and more, particularly assisted living facilities and communities for their seniors are promoting more and more yoga classes.
I would agree with that, yes.
Which is outstanding to see because there's so many benefits that come from that. And sometimes people get intimidated when they think about going to a gym. But if the class is geared towards an older population, you understand that there will be more people of like age in there, and they're going to modify things as appropriate for your age range. And so that's why it's great to see that starting to get traction now.
I think we need to also demystify and embrace what happens as we get older. And people think that, I'm broken or this is the end. No, this is natural, this happens. And the idea isn't to, you really can't prevent it, but you can slow it. And that's, I think, what the gist of our talk today is about, is how do we at least slow it so you can get 85 quality years and have no events, no heart attack, no stroke, no cancer, no hospitalizations, and you had a full pull with bonus time.
Hey, I tell you what, it's amazing when you think of that. I like that. The bonus side, because it's palpable out there, but again, we have to tell people now at a younger, if you are younger, but even if you're older, you can still do so many things. But again, you plant the seed in those people. It's kind of like when Dr. Morris was on the show a number of months ago, we talked about dementia, and how do you kind of tell people that are in their 30s and 40s, by the way, in 3 or 4 decades from now, you have a higher likelihood of getting dementia than we've ever had in this world, as a matter of fact, because the rates are only rising. They're going to triple by the year 2050. And so how do you plant that seed in a younger person to say, I need you to think 30, 40 years from now, and then fill in the blank? it's hard to
Right.
do so. Not impossible, though.
No, not impossible.
It takes great patience.
Yeah.
And again, what we say, establishing the relationship.
Yes,
So,
relationships. That's wonderful. So let me ask Dr. Morris this question. You mentioned a few moments ago about yoga. I think about Tai Chi, and really we know that's a very meditative and a stress reduction thing. Exercise certainly reduces stress. When you think about everything, but with the mindful movement. Meditation, yoga, it's a great way to de-stress. So let's talk about stress a little bit. I gave the example earlier of a grandparent who's now raising their grandchild as if they were their own child. And that's the reality that they're in, an adult child at home, for example. We could play with this, run with this one. But when that person's hit with a lot of stressors, and again, they're kind of tethered down by so many commitments and not having time for themselves, for example, how do you make people resilient in the face of ongoing stress? What's your take on that?
That's not an easy thing to address. When you think about stress is coping with a situation you either don't want to or didn't anticipate you were going to have to. Stress really becomes a matter of perspective.
Okay.
Because what one situation may be stressful to one, the other person says, that doesn't bother me near as much. So again, that goes back to understanding where somebody is at that point in time with their life, with their perspective. But when you think about dealing with stress, it's that meditation really is an unsung hero for reducing stress. Some people think about meditation as they have to, cross their legs and go for long periods of time. But stress or meditation is as simple as, if you're a religious person, praying. It's just a point to be able to sit for a moment and focus on just you, just what's going on in your inside voice, and just being able to close off the world for a few minutes and allow yourself a bit of clarity. That personal space, that time with you, it goes so far to recharge you for the task at hand. I talked with a mother the other day. She has her own 2 children, and she's taking care of her elderly mother in her home. And she said, I've got 2 young kids, and the only time that I have any time at all is when I'm in the washroom. And she said, so sometimes I'll take a little bit more time when I'm there because I need to recharge in order to be able to care for my mom and to take care of the kids. She said, sometimes I don't get through an entire bath, but the fact that I do that for me helps me understand this is what I need to do.
That situation is all too common, and we see those kind of examples on a daily basis. And really, as we're sitting there with our patients, trying to coach them out of this and give them techniques, I really say, even if it seems like it's very hard to find that moment, when you finally do get in that moment and you take the opportunity there. I love how you use the word clarity. Allowing your body to process information to really improve your decision making, because you're going to be doing so many things, but it helps you set the tone for everything that you're trying to do, and it may make a difference for you getting through your day and having some gratitude, or getting through your day wanting to pull your hair out and yelling, and then that actually leading to more disease burden.
correct.
How do you talk to your patients, Dr. Cunnar, about when you're dealing with stress, especially in older populations? How do you just have them incorporate proper management skills on a day-to-day basis?
This isn't something that I do specifically with my seniors. I do it with all my patients. As you talked about prayer, unplug, turn off the radio, turn off the television, turn off your phone, and all things, and just be quiet. And if you do that, it's amazing how people get uncomfortable with that, because we're not used to that anymore. And it's people go, I have to find time for this. I said, actually, find 5 minutes. Do it first thing in the morning when you open your eyes. You can do this at any time throughout your day. Personally, I don't run or ride or exercise with anything in. That's my quiet time. I'm one with my breathing. I'm one with the road. I'm one with the path that I run on. And I do that. I need that for my brain and not just for my body. And it goes back to that mind-body connection. Mm-hmm. But when I don't run for a couple weeks, I kind of lose my mind, because I'm like, I got to clear my head out. And
one thing, speaking about not listening when you're exercising out, maybe sometimes when you're in your car and it's just you.
Correct.
Turn off the radio.
Turn off the radio.
Yes.
I love it. It's great. It's a great recommendation.
So I have to tell a quick story of that one. That was me, and I told my wife this story, and she's listening right now. And I turn off the radio, and then you kind of say, you hear this rattle, and go, what what in the world is that? It's like next thing you know, I need like I don't know, I forget what part of my car I need to get fixed, but if I didn't have the radio off, I wouldn't have been in that moment, and then all of a sudden I hear something. So thank you for mindful moments like that one. But it's true, but we have to do that we need to do that more often. We just don't do it.
No.
Yeah, so.
And it's so simple to do, but we overlook it every single day.
And again, it's talking about, as we said earlier, it's like, how do you go from all talk to actually doing? There's a difference in talking and doing. And we want to be proactive. I think all of us have that plan where we say we'd rather be risk averse versus risk taking, and so we just need to make sure we're doing it. And the foundation's there. Your family support system, whatever kind of support system you have, will allow you to do those kind of things, and hopefully allows you to thrive. But I think about as we age, we have to have key resources, outlets for stress. We just got to do it more often. We got to talk about it.
As a physician, I think I struggle sometimes with the ability to connect on somebody that's at a different life place than I am, somebody that's near retirement. As I turned 50 this year, and I'm barreling toward that. But when I was younger, how did I connect as a physician? And sometimes I think, and I think we're going to get to this, is to talk about community and peer groups, and have others that can understand what you're in. And I think as healthcare providers, we need to champion that type of community more. As much as we try to be empathetic and compassionate toward that, it's hard because we're not there. So
it's the old saying, if you're not in somebody else's shoes, it's hard to identify with them. But I think as clinicians, we've seen so many people from all walks of lives over the years. I mean, we can certainly comment on something. We can certainly offer our opinion. But the reality is, like, sometimes it's like if you've never been hospitalized as a doctor. I know a number of years ago I had to be hospitalized. You haven't worked in hospitals for years at a time. You don't know what it's like to be a patient until you're a patient yourself.
Right.
And you kind of have another perspective. But then if you learn, like me, you learn how to approach things differently. I know when I was hospitalized years ago, dealing with, and I've talked about it on my show, dealing with a large benign brain tumor to get it taken out, I had a whole nother perspective on the meaning of life, my purpose, what's my priorities. And I think that's one thing that we should be talking about a lot is, what are our priorities? We all talked about getting the most out of life, but we need to talk about our priorities, and I think that's really a great way to segue into the connection thing. What's the most important to you? For me, I can speak for myself. I think about family. I think about faith. I don't consider myself a physician at the top of my list of my to-do list on successful things that I've done in my life. I think of being a father, being a loving husband, being a man of faith, and then physician is somewhere down the road. But that's my story. We all have a story, as you said at the beginning. What's your story? So let me ask this question to Dr. Cunnar. How do we start out? Because the reality is, some of us, we age and we have a lot of family. Some of us, as we age more, certain, a lot of your core people, they may have already passed, maybe lifelong friends. Maybe their adult child has moved out. Maybe a woman has lost her spouse. Adult children live in another state, and now they might have loneliness. But how do you try to keep connection amongst people as they get older?
I wanted to, when I read this question, I thought, how do I segue into what I do in a patient room? And I'll go with retirement, because that's a huge life event that most people will go through. And I always ask people, what do you do now to stay busy? Okay. And it's interesting how men answer it one way, women will answer it another way, and yet if I try to look at the macro Uber 40,000 foot view of it, the people that are the healthiest are the ones that actually keep it full, and they find other things that fill in where work once was. Okay. And when you do that, it's typically not some isolated event. It's something you're doing with a group, whether it's Habitat for Humanity or Hesed House, or I go and I substitute teach, and those people are happier. And so we need to have something that fills in, and to your word, purpose.
Excellent. Dr. Morris, please give me your take on that one, because I know this speaks to the essence of what you do when you work with patients and clients and families daily. How do we keep the engagement going? How do we keep the community, the purpose, the connection?
I appreciate that you bring up retirement. Now, there was an old study when, probably about 20 years ago now, that when a military member who typically finishes their service time in their 40s okay, would retire, and if they didn't have anything that they were doing afterwards, their average lifespan was 7 to 12 years. That's short.
That's short, my friend. Yeah, look at that.
And with the additional research, what they found was when people left the military at that time, they didn't have any purpose afterwards. They were always in a very high energy environment. They always had something to be done. And so they defined who they were by that. And when that was gone, that reason for living was gone, which is exactly why the military instituted a few programs in order to ensure that that would not continue. But it speaks to that purpose of life. When I'm talking with individuals about transitioning into a new life situation, particularly retirement, that's exactly what I want to do. What makes you passionate? What makes you get up in the morning? What makes you happy for starting today? And that's the thing that you need to focus on and continue to move forward with. Continue to have that purpose in your life. My wife has been retired for a few years now, and I laugh because when somebody asks her, how are you liking retirement? She goes, I'm busier now than when I was working.
That's a great story.
She's chosen not to work for financial gain, but she's found value in working with the church, working with outreach groups, for volunteering, and she gets so much more intrinsic pride from that, not from a boastful standpoint, but just because she loves what she's doing and loves to share herself with others. And so being able to keep connected with people that like to do that is an outstanding thing to do. We're social creatures. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And to be able to be with like-minded people gives us purpose and gives us a point to work from. When I'm working with individuals that are considering whether they move into an assisted living facility or otherwise because they've lost their spouse and their children aren't here, they say, why should I? I love my home. I said, have you ever had friends in your life when you were younger? Do you have those anymore? And too often they say, I'm at an age where I don't have too many friends left. I said, that's one of the benefits that people overlook when you move into that facility, because there are so many like-minded people, so many people that have gone through societally same instances, same experiences, and you're able to share that and have a place to connection and be able to draw from that and give back to others, and you get your purpose from that social interactions.
Man, and that is awesome. I always think like we've got to do that, and we can't put up any. I mean, there's already a lot of barriers that we have that can potentially affect our health, our relationships already. When we get older, it doesn't have to be more barriers. There's so much more opportunity out there now more than ever. Even when you're talking about being connected with your family through technology, maybe you do have that relative that you love, or that adult child that may live in another state, but technology's helping us out and keeping those things going. We have to embrace those kind of things. We can't run away from it, but we want to make sure that people keep those connections, because, as you said, it affects your longevity. I forget the study, but I believe Dean Ornish, who's a godfather of kind of lifestyle medicine, said it. But if you're lonely, you have a higher likelihood of dying from heart disease and all-cause mortality. I believe he said it was 3 times. But sorry, Dr. Ornish, I'm misquoting your study. But the reality is that we need to make sure, because it can have the perils of isolation and loneliness can have an adverse effect on your health.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
That's one of the things that I've done some recent research on. It really breaks my heart. There is an increase after you turn 65 of depression. And we're actually starting to recognize a reverse bell curve for suicides in the older adults. Yeah. It typically goes down when you're in your adolescence and you're in your early adulthood, but as people age, it starts to creep back up. And that's sad, because that's a sign of despair. That's a sign of being disconnected from others and no longer feeling value. And I have never met somebody that I said, you have no value. Never met somebody like that.
Dr. Cunnar, you're going to say something, then we'll get into some myths versus facts.
Sure. One of the things when you look at the younger generation is how they utilize technology for social interaction. With this being speaking about older adults, I'm going to do this. This, Jason, is important.
Yes.
A handshake and touch, right there. And for that generation specifically, you can't do this through a video camera. It needs to be a handshake. There needs to be touch involved, and that's something that we can't. None of us can forget. And I think when you explain that to people, and I'll even go up and shake someone's hand, and they'll look at you, and you could see that barrier come down where they go, I get what you're saying. So
I feel like we're at a, you and I were talking a little bit beforehand that, and I love it, that generation right now, those 65 and older, they know that touch, they know that handshake. And we're kind of between generations, you and I, and then the younger generation, it's very detached. And we want to do more of that throughout the lifespan. And so we just have to keep this message. That's why I love talking about this topic, and we want everybody to share the show like crazy, because we want to get everybody connected. The power of human connection is such an awesome thing, and so I love talking about it. So let's get into some myths versus facts. So here's what we do each week on the show. We do myths versus facts. This has been a great conversation thus far. I say a statement. My panelists will say either myth or fact and give us a few sentences why it's a myth or a fact. And really it's all about setting the record straight. Again, we're building trust and delivering truth. So here we go. Dr. Cunnar, first statement. Here's the statement. Healthy connections can help people sustain healthy habits. Myth or fact?
that is an absolute fact.
Please explain.
People aren't good at their own accountability, but boy, your accountability to a group, that's different, and accountability to others. So having somebody that's a workout buddy, having a class that you go to that's, whatever that is, having those connections holds you to a different standard than you forcing yourself and having the willpower to or to not do it.
Excellent, thank you. Here we go. Dr. Morris, there are no harms seen in adults over the age of 65 who get less than 7 hours of sleep each night. No harms.
No, there are harms.
Okay, so that's a myth.
That is a myth.
Please explain.
What happens, unfortunately, as we age, our circadian rhythm sometimes gets thrown off, and we have more waking of the evening, and so we've got more napping in the afternoon. But not getting that solid 7 hours sleep can cause so many problems. In fact, in some cases, it can cause some delusions, which are very concerning. So getting those 7 hours sleep is one of the things that we try to ensure at least everybody gets.
Yeah, it's something that I talked about. We did a show on sleep entitled The Best Sleep Ever a month ago with a good friend of mine, Dr. Juan Flores. So I definitely guys check it out, but it's absolutely true. Sleep deprivation, we're living in a society with pervasive sleep deprivation, but sleep deprivation has an effect on every body system. All right, thank you. Here we go. Dr. Cunnar, here's a statement. Older individuals should still strive to get 150 minutes per week of moderate exercise. Myth or fact?
That's a fact with an asterisk.
All right, please explain. Fair enough. I'll give you that.
If you are retired, there is going to be you're going to have a hard time explaining to me why you can't move for 20 minutes a day.
Okay, fair. I got you on that one. You're a tough cookie. I love it.
And that gets close to the 150. But something every day is better than nothing.
Thank you. All right, here we go. Dr. Morris, numerous relaxation practices exist for an older adult to implement. Myth or fact?
That is a fact.
Please explain.
You've got multiple things. As we talked earlier, you have prayer, you have meditation through just focusing on one thing. Guided imagery is one thing that works very well. One thing that I like to recommend to people that are having difficulty with meditation, take an object and just focus on it. I usually use a bottle of water. And just kind of describe that bottle of water in great detail and spend time with it. Not superficial, it's plastic, it's got ridges and a label, it's wet inside, but really start to apply what that bottle of water is, and you can get lost in it. In fact, one of the things that I do to meditate is try to understand a vacuum and what truly is a vacuum. No molecules, nothing.
I'm thinking about my Hoover vacuum cleaner at home, by the way. But that is awesome. But philosophically, I love it. But you're right. Simple things. It doesn't have to be hard. You can do simple things and really stay focused and have clarity after you reemerge. Here we go. Here's a statement. This is a long one for Dr. Cunnar. Here we go. Practical strategies for healthy eating in older adults include filling up on fiber-rich plant foods, avoiding or limiting animal products, staying hydrated, keeping portions in check, limiting oils, sugar, and alcohol intake, cooking at home, and balancing meals throughout the day. Myth or fact?
All of those are facts, and that is a mouthful, Dr. Gomez.
I know. Sorry, I give you the low one. I go, why did I give you the low one?
There's a whole lot to digest there. I want to two I want to take away though.
Please do.
One, alcohol and alcohol consumption is something that is always underreported and is a significant detriment to everyone's health. There is no benefit, no matter what anybody says, to regular and consistent alcohol consumption. That is a very simple way. If you want to do something small that can have immediate impacts on your health, cut back on your drinking. And then cooking at home, one, it's fun. Two, it costs less. Three, it's healthier.
Excellent.
And four, talk about purpose. You know, some people don't think they're good cooks. They try it, and all of a sudden they go, "Oh, I can bake." I'm like, yeah, you can. So, so those were the two I wanted to pick out there.
Here we go, Dr. Morris. Here's a statement. A number of steps can be undertaken to help a person become attuned to their own body and achieve an appropriate degree of deep relaxation. Myth or fact?
That's a fact.
Please explain.
That's a fact. Meditation is an outstanding way of doing it. You know, just being present with someone else allows you to just kind of listen to yourself and kind of listen to others and be more involved with the world around you.
Excellent. We'll do two more of these. Here we go. Dr. Cunnar, loneliness and social isolation are the same thing.
You know,
Myth or fact?
I did the math, and I knew this one was going to land on me.
All right, there you go.
It was going to be my partner in crime. I'm going to say that that's a myth. There are people that are kind of, I'll say, socially isolated that are very fulfilled, and people that are connected that are incredibly lonely. So those are two separate things, and I thought we could share that answer.
So what's your take on that one, Dr. Morris? Go ahead and expand on that, what
You know,
Dr. Cunnar said.
We do have people that have established a quality lifestyle being independent, not involving other people. You know, we think about, many scientists are in fact, but then you have those individuals that are very social that feel completely isolated from others in the same room. Unfortunately, we have had a number of suicides in the last few years of people that were very sociable, very engaged with others, but never was able to connect for whatever reason or another, and just felt it wasn't worth continuing.
Well, it's unfortunate that those situations happen, but this is more reason why we have to continue to have these kind of conversations.
Exactly.
We'll do one more of these. Well, on a happy note on this one. Self-care. Here we go, Dr. Morris. Self-care is not necessarily being selfish. Myth or fact?
That is a fact.
Please explain.
The biggest thing that people say is, if I take time for myself, I've taken it from somewhere else. And my response to that is, how can you care for others if you don't put yourself first?
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. There you go, everybody. Myth versus fact. So we've been having this awesome discussion. I can't believe it. We got 5 minutes left. Those were actually the only questions that we went through, those statements of myth versus fact. It's been so organic on everything, which is great. And it's been just a great conversation, talking with both of you gentlemen and sharing and hearing your passions, your stories, and really some tips out there for people that want to continue to keep their health at the forefront of everything. So we got about 5 minutes left. We talked about in the beginning the chief complaint, why somebody comes into your office, the question of the hour that we're talking about. Let's bring it on home. We call it the assessment and plan. Of course, the assessment and plan, for those of you out there that are listening to us, that's when your clinician gives you a diagnosis and, more importantly, a treatment plan, and the most important thing, a follow-up. So here we go. It's so true, isn't it, Dr. Cunnar? So true.
Absolutely.
Gotta have a follow-up in there. So, Dr. Morris, take us home. Give us a few tips out there. People that are listening to us, what do we want them to get from today's show? What are some tips for them to be successful, especially for those of us out there that are listening that are older than age 65? What tools and tricks of the trade can you give them to be successful in their life?
Well, one thing that I would like for them to take away from this is understanding what normal aging is. And it was explained to me at one point in time, normal aging is the individual that wins the 100-yard dash in the Senior Olympics would not even qualify for the regular Olympics team. As we age, we're not expected to lose abilities. We just anticipate that we will do them slower. And so we need to be able to recognize that and be able to make self-assessments that are accurate so that we know that we can reach out to others. Probably one of the greatest detriments that we have to our population right now is not knowing when it's okay to ask for help. And that's partially on society, that's partially on us. Because we have become so fast-paced. There are those that have taken different routes, which I'm glad that I've come to know. But we need to be able to say, it's okay to ask for help. Everybody's been in that situation, and everybody wants to help. So that self-care is such a key piece. Wonderful.
Well, thank you, Dr. Morris, for coming out today and sharing your passion, your mission, and really just some of your convictions. It's really just a great mindset that can easily be paid forward to those that are out there listening. So thank you again. Dr. Cunnar, bring us on home. Give us a couple of take-home points for people out there that are listening to us on how to be successful and good tips for those of us that are older than 65, with those that are going to be aging to that population? What should they take away from today's show?
I think the one thing I want people to remember is that it's never too late to start. People think I'm 55, I'm 60, I'm 65. I've never been healthy. You can start today. And the one thing is go and do something that is negative. Go have a big bowl of ice cream and realize how poor it makes you feel. Flip that around and then make a choice to have a day of eating healthy and realize how well you sleep. And then you build on that. You can choose to be healthy. The tools are sitting there right in front of you. You just have to not be afraid. And that comes also from what we've kind of been throughout this, is that you're not alone. Family, friends, physicians, caregivers, counselors, there are people out there to do this with. You're not on an island. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Dr. Cunnar. And my final thoughts are this, and I'm going to start out this with a quote. Act as if what you do makes a difference. It does. That's by Dr. William Jones, who's an American philosopher and psychologist at Harvard more than 100 years ago. But it's true. What you do today does matter. We talked earlier about making those short-term sacrifices to get the long-term gain. We're all in this for a bigger picture, a bigger purpose. Again, as you have success with your health, you're going to have more opportunities and success with your life. Make sure that you keep that a priority. Don't let this conversation die down. Do what you got to do. Just make a difference. Again, you can make it a mindset. You want to get better. Surround yourself with the great people that support you. Find an excellent clinician. Find a primary care physician who will be there for you through the thick and thin of it all. I guarantee you, if you do that and you put your mind to it, you're going to have so much more prosperity, health, and we're going to get to those blue zone years, without a doubt. So again, it's been great. I want to thank my guests today, Dr. Jason Morris and Dr. Jim Cunnar. Let me just read their information again. Dr. Jason Morris, licensed clinical psychologist and certified dementia practitioner at Renewed Aging Services. Check him out, www.helptheaging.com. Dr. Jim Cunnar, excellent. Thank you, my friend, coming on. Board certified family medicine physician, owner at DuPage Family Medicine. Check him out, www.DuPageFamilyMedicine.com. You've been listening and watching live on Facebook at intellectualradio.com. This episode is written by Mark D. Gomez, MD, and Tiffany E.R. Gomez. Producer is Tiffany E.R. Gomez. Music is by the wonderful Mr. Havis. Copyright 2019 by MDG Wellness LLC. All rights reserved. Stay tuned for next week's show. That Estrogen Show, Myths, Facts, and Other Realities. Again, my name is Dr. Mark Gomez. Check out on my website, www.drmarkgomez.com. Catch you guys later. Peace out.